Hi, welcome to ParentingU, a podcast where we walk alongside you on this amazing journey we call parenting. Today is an episode all about sleep, and it's what I'm really excited about because we've talked about sleep for babies and toddlers before, but today we're talking all things sleep with tweens and teens. So today we're talking with Dr. Natalie Derouen with Our Lady of Lourdes Health, and she's going to help us talk all things sleep, my favorite topic. So welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Well, let's start off. Tell us a little bit about you, your background, and what do you do here?
So I'm from St. Martinville, Louisiana, so a small town not too far from here. But I practice in Maurice, Louisiana currently with Lourdes Physician Group as a general pediatrician.
Well, how was it after going to all the school you went to, coming back home? What was that like?
It's been great. I love it because I'm closer to my parents and my sister, and it's been great being back home.
That's great. Well, so like I mentioned, sleep. I mean, it's something we all do, and it's something we probably all think about a lot. And over the years, our episodes have really focused a little bit more on the younger kids. But today I really want to talk about sleep with adolescents. What are the basics that we need to know about how much sleep tweens, teens may need, and how to really help them get the best sleep they can?
Teens typically need about 8 to 10 hours of sleep a night, which I feel like very few of them get, especially with kind of their school schedule, their extracurricular activities, all of that stuff kind of can get in the way. But typically I'd say about 8 to 10, 9 to 12 if they're a little bit younger. Ideally, though, each kid is going to be different, right? So some kids might need that 10 hours and some kids might do great on the 8. So it's really just going to be kind of adjusting based on how tired they feel in the morning or kind of when they're getting sleepy.
What does sleep do? What is it doing while we're sleeping? What is our brain doing? What is our body doing to kind of get ready for the next day?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's allowing us to rest, kind of recharge and reset. A lot of the time, like I said, they kind of do a lot of extracurricular activities, might have sports after school, homework. And so that's a lot of like stimulation for the brain. So we need time to kind of wind down to be able to rest and relax.
I've always heard it's kind of like a garbage disposal. Like it's kind of while you're sleeping, your body's kind of chewing up all the bad stuff and cleaning things out. And then when you wake up, it's kind of a fresh sink. Is that right?
Yes, we are kind of like cleaning up our brain and letting it refuel and recharge and everything. So.
Teens tend to have different rhythms. They may tend to stay up later. They may need to stay up later. How do we help them get into good routines so that they're getting tired at the right times, so that they can sleep long enough and then get up at the right times?
So I was actually reading a study about that because teens, when they kind of going through puberty, they might have even a full 2 hours delay in when their sleep cycle will be at its peak to be tired. And so sometimes even before 11 p.m., it's hard for them to want to go to sleep. It could potentially be something to do with their melatonin not quite spiking at the same time that it used to. So that can be difficult for them, especially with such early wake-up times, like to catch the bus at 5 o'clock or 6 a.m., if they're going to sleep at 11 or 12, they're definitely not going to get enough hours. So it's kind of important to develop a routine based on when they do wake up and kind of counting backwards. Okay, if I need to be up at 6, what time should I go to bed to have that 8 to 10 hours of sleep?
Well, that's good. So what's a good kind of start to a routine to maybe at night start to wind down? Like they have realized, okay, I need to go to bed at 10 p.m. to get enough. What time do I start to get ready to go to bed?
Yeah, so typically I'd say about an hour before your planned bedtime is when you should start winding down. It's kind of like whenever they were kids, or toddlers, where we'd say, okay, brush your teeth, read a book, go to bed, right? Same kind of deal for teens, truly, because we all respond well to routines. So having that set up, okay, I'm going to eat dinner, brush my teeth, maybe they could read a book and then go to bed. But the big things that I think is a challenge for us these days is the screens that kind of keep us awake. So definitely turning off our cell phones, electronics, video games, iPads, all of those things at least an hour before, just to give your brain time to not have that artificial light stimulating it to be awake. Because a lot of the times that blue light in the screen will kind of trick your brain into thinking that it's the sun and it's time to be awake. And so if we're just kind of scrolling on our phone or looking at that, it can push back our natural sleep cycle as well. So definitely starting to wind down about an hour before.
Well, and do the blue light glasses really work?
I'm not an eye doctor, but I think, it could potentially help. But I wouldn't say it's a replacement for cutting off those electronics at that time.
That's a good point.
I would definitely, it's probably hard for adults to do it as well. Like, you're busy until the end of the day. And I think it would be great if there was potential for a family kind of screen time cutoff, we're all putting our cell phones away, or we're all putting our iPads away, just to make sure that we're going to be setting a good example to show them that it's important that you get enough sleep.
I think that's a really good point. And I think that that's something that a lot of us probably would struggle with. Like, we're telling our teens, you need to put all that away, but then we're laying on the couch doing the same thing. So what are some ways that maybe as parents we could show some better examples or walk alongside our teens as we're trying to establish these good routines?
Yeah, I mean, it could be kind of like I said, a family thing, like a compromise. Like, okay, so if I'm asking you to do this, then I'm also going to participate with you. And so that can sometimes help to motivate them. Because I think it's hard for teens when it's not like their friends are staying up late. I've had like some teens tell me, my friends play the video games like after 9 p.m. and I want to be on there online with them. So I think it's kind of a struggle in that sense, that they want to be involved and actually have relaxation time. But if they realize that their parents are, on board with them and helping them, it might be more convincing, I guess, in that sense.
Yeah. What are some common sleep issues that you see in teens and tweens? Like, what are you noticing in clinic, or how are they being affected if they're not getting good sleep?
Some kids will fall asleep in class. Sometimes they'll get headaches, which I feel like is a really big issue that I see a lot of the time. Like, some people will get maybe like 5 or 6 hours of sleep and they're complaining of getting headaches every day. And so part of my headache talk is honestly to have them get enough sleep, about 8 to 10 hours, because if they don't, then that can, sometimes they talk about elevating the blood pressure. It can cause the headaches, the worsening of their ADHD symptoms, anxiety, kind of depression can have that side effect of not having enough sleep. So definitely can be a big component of affecting them. So
yeah, I wonder, because I honestly, I grew up having a TV in my room, and I would go to sleep with the TV on, and I think that creates a habit and addiction to that. And so I find it's really hard for me to calm my mind at night, and so I like to have something. What are some ways that we could help teens that maybe if they say, "Oh, I can't stop thinking," or "My mind is racing," or "I'm just not tired"? What are some ways that we can help them along if they're having some struggles? Just calming down and quieting down.
So TVs in the room are a tough one. But I'd be one of those people to say, if you have to have some sort of light from a TV or kind of like that stimulation, having a calm kind of soundscape on can be helpful, like ocean waves or something with a darker screen, rain sounds, if that's helpful. Because then it can still, have that stimulation, but it's more calming and kind of that putting you in a restful state. So that's an option. Another option could be writing in a journal, if that's something that they like to do, because then it can kind of, they're actively doing something, but it's not, that artificial light is not there. But then it can kind of help to get any of those racing thoughts maybe out and put it on paper. That way it's out of your brain. Just kind of, let's put this in my journal. Or even just reading. And I wouldn't say on a Kindle or, an iPad, truly a physical book that you can read. Sometimes that'll even put you to sleep. So
fall asleep while you're reading it. There you go. Wake up with your head in a book.
Yes.
What are some common sleep disorders that you might see or treat in your clinic, like insomnia, kind of trouble waking, and how can parents kind of recognize some of those symptoms?
So if they're truly having trouble falling asleep and they've done the main kind of sleep hygiene things that we talk about, like cutting off the electronics, making sure that they're doing a routine, and they're still having trouble falling asleep, it might be something deeper going on. So we talked about earlier, anxiety and depression, that can sometimes have the side effect of having trouble sleeping or even sleeping too much. So it could be, one of those things to kind of explore a little bit further, see if there's something that's been bothering them, if they're feeling down or sad. That can be a big component of it too. So I'd say kind of exploring that a little bit further. And then as far as the ADHD, like kids who have ADHD, that can be a big issue is sleep, just because, well, they're overstimulated in general, but then we have medications that can sometimes make it difficult for them to sleep. And so if they're finding that that's been a cause of it, might be that they need to take their medication earlier in the day, or sometimes they need additional medicines to kind of help calm their brain at night. But it would be more exploring into why they're having those symptoms.
As kids get older, they're adding more stuff to the schedule, extracurricular, friends, whatever it may be, and sleep can really kind of get crowded out. How can parents who may be overcrowded on their own schedule, I'm looking at myself, how can we help them to make time and prioritize sleep?
It kind of goes back to that same idea of a routine where we know, okay, if we have to wake up at a certain time, what time should we be home, and getting into that mindset of winding down to go to sleep. So I know it's tough because a lot of people have a lot of, activities, whether it's the sports, whether it's clubs or organizations that they want to be a part of. I think that it's kind of deciding which ones are the most important to them and kind of focusing on those and not overloading them with too much. Because then when are they going to do homework? When are they going to, relax? Because that's an important thing too, right? Making sure that they have time to themselves and getting to do, fun hobbies that they enjoy outside of that too. So I think it's just all about balance and making sure that they're focusing on the things that are going to be the most important at that time and maybe not doing everything all at once.
Yeah. Well, and, this age group has such a kind of an interesting way of talking to each other and language. And what would you recommend we say to them?
You'd have to kind of bring it to their level and what would be important to them. Because I find that a lot of the times, the kids who come in and they're like, oh man, I keep going back to the headaches, because I feel like that's a really big complaint that kids will have. And if they don't, realize that like sleep could be part of that, then they might be like, okay, oh, well, I have a headache every day. But I think like kind of bringing it to a place where they're like, okay, this could actually benefit me. Like this is something that, this complaint is here. If I maybe try this, it could get better.
I remember being like up until midnight and sleep until
right.
2 the next day, whatever it may be. I know it's kind of part of it, but I think putting it in there, reframing it for them is what I like what you said about like, what's important to you. It's important to you to be able to go out with your friends tomorrow night. That means we need to get some good rest tonight.
Right. And I feel like a lot of the times, they'll think, okay, I could just catch up on the weekend. And sure, like there is more time to sleep later, but not having that routine on the weekend can actually throw them off as well. So, it's still recommended to at least get within about an hour of their sleep time and wake time, even on the weekends. Because if we let the schedule kind of throw off, we stay up till 2 a.m. on Friday night, we don't have to wake up till noon the next day, fine. But then Sunday comes around, you're still tired, you threw off your sleep cycle, and then here comes Monday and you got to restart. So I think that that's a hard one for people to want to do, because you're like, oh, great, I get to sleep in, I don't have to set an alarm. And it's not to say you need to still wake up at 5 or 6 a.m., but maybe try 7:30, just to keep yourself in that routine, to not have to restart again and catch up next week.
Yeah. Is it true that you can't catch up on sleep or bank sleep?
I feel like to some extent you might be able to catch up a little bit, but I think we're always chasing that dream. Like we're always going to be a little bit behind.
Or I'm going to sleep a lot today because I'm going to be up all night tomorrow night.
Right.
No, that's
I don't think it would be as beneficial as people would like.
Well, what about, we're kind of talking about going to bed. Is there anything that we can do in the mornings that maybe set us up for good sleep? Or like if we want to get up and kind of get the day going, what are some things that we can do?
Yeah. So sometimes it's kind of saying like opening the blinds or going outside and kind of letting that fresh air or the sun kind of wake you up. Because we do have a gland in our brain that kind of releases the good like hormones for sleep. But then once it's kind of like when you get off of a plane and they say you have jet lag, they say to face the sun so that you'll have that gland kind of wake up and realize that it's the morning. So that can be an option. But having a like routine, like same kind of deal where you wash your face, brush your teeth, eat some breakfast, like kind of things to look forward to and do can be helpful.
Well, and what are your thoughts about sleep aids like melatonin or NyQuil or, even the prescription stuff? Good, bad, ugly?
I think there's room for it in certain settings. So melatonin is like, a natural hormone that we have in our body. And sometimes they say taking that about 30 minutes to an hour before your bedtime can help to spike with your natural melatonin.
So I'm thinking that probably natural sleep routines and sleep hygiene is the best way to go, as much as we possibly can.
For sure. So it's going to be kind of getting those good habits that you want to build on. And then having the sleep aids can sometimes be helpful in that short-term period, but making sure that you're building that routine around it is really going to be the most beneficial.
But probably not dosing on NyQuil every night to get to sleep.
Not.
Well, what about physical activity, working out, whether they're doing it through school or just kind of after they get home? Does that help quote unquote, tire them out? Or does it just kind of help your body run better?
I think it's a little bit of both. Definitely going to help your body run better in general. We typically recommend about an hour of physical activity or exercise per day. So that's going to help your body get into that routine as well. But not too close to when you're supposed to go to bed, because that can elevate your heart rate, kind of rile you up a little bit. But I think within a reasonable time, it's a good idea.
What about food? Sometimes you hear, don't eat too big of a meal at dinner, or don't eat too close to bed, or do eat too close to bed. Does food have any effect on it at all?
Kind of like anything, you'd want to have the good like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, not eating too late. But as far as like effectiveness for sleep, it's going to vary person to person. Like some people can eat a big meal and be fine. Some people might have reflux symptoms. So it kind of just depends. But I'd say as long as you're regulating and having those good 3 meals a day, then that's the goal.
Yeah. Well, and when should a parent worry about their teen's sleep?
I'd say if it's become kind of a consistent issue that you've noticed is causing any kind of how they're dealing with things in life. So like whether it's affecting their schoolwork, affecting their extracurricular activities, or if they're seeming more kind of grumpy or upset about like waking up, I'd say if you aren't aware of the different types of things that you can do to have a good routine, or if you're not sure of like kind of how to do a good like sleep hygiene routine at night, then talking to your doctor about it. Honestly, we talk about it at all of their wellness visits anyway. So it's definitely something that we talk about once a year. But if they're noticing a pattern to it where it's become, more than a few weeks and you're kind of like, okay, this is seeming to be an issue that they're facing, then I'd say calling your doctor.
Daylight savings time. I know as babies, it's all we talk about. We got to get them on a schedule. Is there something that we can help our teens and tweens with when it's either spring forward, fall back? How can we help?
I'd say, I guess, maybe potentially planning to go to sleep about 30 minutes earlier than you typically would. So that way, if you lose that hour, you're maybe only losing 30 minutes. But it's just kind of trying your best to have a good sleep routine and make it through. Yeah.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to share about sleep, what we can say to our teens or tweens so that we can all have a good night's rest?
Making sure that you are getting enough rest and prioritizing that over everything else, just because if you're not feeling restful, then you might not want to do as many activities that you're signed up for, or you might not be able to do as much as you'd like to do. So making sure that you're recharging your body so that you can participate in school, hang out with your friends, and do well with your activities.
That's great. Well, thank you so much. I'm so glad you were here today. I learned a lot. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Thank you again for joining us. I hope you learned as much as I did. And if you know anyone who's struggling with sleep or would benefit from hearing about these tips about sleep, I hope you share this episode. And we'll see you next time.